door and not the phone call, because apparently the police visited the parents that are more involved, and my heart goes out to them.
Parliament will officially be dissolved at a minute past midnight, meaning the general election campaign gets fully underway tomorrow. Today, the Lib Dems have said that cancelling Brexit will boost the economy, while Labour is promising to get the UK's departure from the EU sorted within 6 months. All 79 branches of Mothercare are to close, putting 2,500 jobs at risk. Administrators say there will be a phased closure and stores will be kept trading as long as possible. Cervical cancer screening could soon involve giving a urine sample at home rather than women needing to go for a smear test. In future, researchers believe it could become the standard method of testing. Athena Lamnissos from the Eve Appeal says it's good news.
At any one time, there are about 5 million women who are overdue their screening test, so we really need to change the story on that. And that's where anything which makes that test easier and more accessible for all is really, really welcome.
Saracens say a 35-point deduction in rugby union's premiership for breaching the salary cap feels like the rug is being pulled out from under their feet. The panel ruled they failed to disclose payments to players over 3 seasons. And DIY SOS is going to receive a BAFTA the Home Renovation Show, which is in its 20th year, as being honoured with a special award for its outstanding creative contribution. That's the latest. I'm Andy Hayes.
Love Sport Radio, on digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Crystal Palace Fans Show.
Good evening, you are listening to Love Sport Radio. Me, Matt Beadle, with you through to 11 p.m. this evening. Right now it is time for our Crystal Palace Fan Show. Yes, I'm here, joined as ever by the boys from the Back of the Nest podcast, James, DR and Nick. Guys, a 2-0 defeat to Leicester at the weekend. As I said before we started the show, no great shakes really when you consider just how formidable Leicester have been this season.
Absolutely. It was always going to be a tough game for sure. I still felt we might have got something out of it, and I think we did create 1 or 2 chances. Tight first half, chances either way, but I think the quality of Leicester shone through, especially in the second half, and they're in the position they are because they're a very, very good side. And I think that's where we should be aiming for. We should be aiming to, and I think Roy knows this, that he's got to deal with the hand he's been dealt, and I think we haven't got enough quality in our side, and that's where we need to improve. And then once we have, then we can start saying, yep, we can maybe compete in the top 10.
Oh, just a very quick score update. Thank you. I'm getting alerts in the studio. Yes. I love that, Nick. It's brilliant. Chelsea have just gone behind at home to Ajax, and a man who's scoring plenty of goals this season, Tammy Abraham, has put one into his own net. So Chelsea 0, Ajax 1, and I believe we have another. What's that, producer Mike? Chelsea have also got a penalty, so they've gone right down the other end. It'll be interesting if Tammy Abraham steps up to put that away. We will keep you updated with all those Champions League scores as they come in. I have to say, that just responding to that one there, from me, the response to the game has actually been more about, like you say about Leicester, it's been more about how good Leicester were than rather the frailties in Palace.
Yeah, because Leicester are a better side than Palace. I mean, you look at the side and you look at the confidence that Brendan Rodgers have given to them. I mean, you saw it with the second goal. The players, the freedom that they did have and the movement was just brilliant. And we haven't seen that at Palace for a very long time. The last time I actually could remember us playing like the way Leicester did, especially for the second goal, was against Leicester in that 5-0 victory when we had Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Yohan Cabaye. So, I mean, Leicester are a great side, and normally I would leave the stadium very angry, but I wasn't, because going into this game I was more nervous about facing Leicester than actual Arsenal, and I mean, they deserved it, and hats off to them.
Yeah, it was pretty much just the one effort on target. I believe the speculative Jeffrey Schlupp effort that looped over, and Kasper Schmeichel, probably could have put his hat on it but tipped it over. But apart from that, no real threat on the Leicester goal.
Well, that was the difference. I think it's confidence. I've never seen a team with as much movement as Leicester did. Perhaps Man City before they switched off after going 2-0 up a few weeks ago. But right through the whole game, they didn't stop. They didn't stop moving. There were always one or two people to pass to. They look like a team who are really, really confident and know that they're going to finish high up in the table. They've got that belief about them. Even the supporters have got that belief. We were sixth when we started the game, I think.
No, we were ninth after the weekend results.
After we dropped. We didn't play like a team that had the confidence that started off the weekend in sixth. We looked unsure. We had players, the ball was pinging off of them rather than controlling it. PVA did it 2 or 3 times. Kuati should have controlled the ball a couple of times and let Leicester in. So it's really weird that we're that high in the table, unexpectedly, but we've not got the confidence to go with it. And I think that was a big difference.
Yeah, I understand that. But, I mean, even when we were sixth, I don't think we were playing that great in terms of our football. And that's what's the most surprising thing, because people were acting like we were. I mean, we had the same approach at home that we had last season, but the fact is that we were actually scoring goals at home compared to last season when we weren't. So it's not like nothing has changed. It's not like anything has changed at Palace for us to say, all right, look, we've improved and that's why we're in sixth place. It's the fact that we were more clinical in front of goal, and we've always been a decent defensive side. But now we're actually conceding very silly goals, and you could see the cracks. I mean, where we are right now, I think we're ninth. It's more realistic and than what was where we were before in sixth place, because we've actually played more like a team that's ninth place than sixth.
I felt it was a bit of a backward step to last season, actually, because I think we've all been discussing here, how much more positive we felt the team were this season compared to last. It was so negative and it was very boring. And yeah, Leicester are a really good side, but I felt that we weren't positive enough. We had a lot of defensive-minded players in the midfield. We've got playmakers, new players that haven't even got on into the team that were on the bench, that are supposed to be exciting players with a good reputation. And I came away thinking, do you know what? I really hope we're not going to go back to how we were playing at home last season, and that really concerns me.
But, I mean, as I said, we haven't really played any creative players. So when we're thinking of creative players, I guess you're thinking of Victor Camarasa and Max Meyer. They haven't really played this season as much in the first place. So
what's the reason for that then? Because I have to say that I was doing a show on Saturday night on Love Sport, and we had a caller from Palace who brought Victor Camarasa up, and I'd actually forgotten. I'd forgotten about Victor Camarasa. Like, where is he?
Exactly. It's just the fact that Roy, it doesn't fit into Roy's system.
But then why sign him?
Well, that's a question you have to ask the sporting director. I mean,
Roy sign him? Huh? Did Roy sign him?
Exactly, did Roy. But I mean, he probably did have a say in the signing itself. But it's clear what signings were Roy's and what and who weren't. You look at Gary Cahill and McCarthy. Both of them have had their chances, and you can see there's a real connection between Roy and them two. But with players like Max Meyer and Victor Camarasa, you could tell that it's not Roy's type of signing, so it's a bit confusing. It's like, of course the manager has a say, but then again, why is he not giving them a chance?
Well, apparently I've heard that Roy said at a sporting dinner at Selhurst once that he tells the people upstairs what sort of player he wants and what position, and they'll come back and say, well, we've got this bloke and this bloke. The Camarasa thing's a bit of a mystery because he was supposed to be mustard.
Yeah, I mean, he was good for Cardiff,
looked very good.
especially when he actually came into Palace. I was looking at us comparing to Cardiff. I'm thinking we've got a better side than Cardiff City. So I mean, if you put him into our side, you could actually get more goals and more assists maybe out of him. But he hadn't really gotten the chance. I think it was a game against Colchester at home. Did he play? I know Max Meyer played that game, but everyone was abysmal in that game. Other than that, we've seen McCarthy come off the bench a couple of times, but we've never seen Victor Camarasa. And
McCarthy looks all right, though, when he comes off the bench. Meyer looked rubbish off the bench, I thought, on Saturday.
Yeah, I know, but, I mean, the thing, I was talking about that yesterday on the review show pod. Yes, he did look rubbish, but so did everyone else on the pitch. But maybe that would have been a good time for him to shine and put himself forward to show Roy how he should start ahead of maybe Jeffrey Schlupp, but he didn't understand that. But I mean, with Victor Camarasa, I honestly don't see a future for him at Palace unless there's major injuries, because it's clear that he's not even in game week in the squad most of the times.
Well, the fact that James McArthur is he got to be careful now. Has got a back problem that he exacerbated when he went off.
I think McCarthy comes
Saturday.
in. You saw what happened.
Yeah, McCarthy will come in there. Yeah, it's getting the chances. It's a real mystery. I've heard that Camarasa wants to go in January.
Well, he had a cryptic message. I mean, after the game on Twitter, he said something about don't stress, do your best, and something like that. Like, he posted it on Twitter. I don't know what that means, but I would be frustrated as well. If you're not scoring goals, if you're not creating chances, and you're that player that could do that, and you're not getting the opportunity, then why won't you be annoyed?
But then you got another Spanish player, Vicente Gaeta, who wasn't in the team a lot last season, who was still sending out lots of good, positive tweets and really showing that he felt part of the team. Are we getting that kind of thing from Camarasa or not?
I think with Camarasa, he's getting completely excluded from the squad, whereas Vicente Gaeta, at least he was involved with the squad at the start of the season, and maybe he didn't start, but as the season went on, he got his chances. I think it's different with a goalkeeper and an outfielder. You look at Victor Camarasa, he's looking at our team struggle and going forward, so he's more likely to be frustrated.
I think one thing you've got to realise here, that because we've been doing so well, it's unlikely that Roy's want to change the team and the positions and the players. So it's going to take something like this and a defeat or a couple of defeats at home, which is what we've had, and maybe an injury like James McArthur in the midfield to actually bring in somebody afresh. So although we might be thinking that, play him, well, you'd be pretty annoyed if you were dropped from a winning side or dropped from a 2-2 draw away at Arsenal. So I think there is a degree where you have to realise the manager's, he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. We're doing very well. We're in the top 10. We're probably punching above our weight. We've had some difficult games like Arsenal away and West Ham away. We've won. So I think now that we're having a bit of a wobble, let's call it. It's still early days. We're in the top 10.
I contend that the wobble. No, we knew we were going to have this wobble because you remember we when we were in fourth, we said look at our next games. Sorry, we were in sixth, and our next games were the 5 teams above us. We've got a point off Arsenal. I thought we'd get a point off Leicester. We're going to go on a run. A fan's going to, we've got Chelsea, international break, then we've got Liverpool. If we don't win those two, are people going to get on Roy's back unfairly, I think?
Well, realistically, I don't see us. I wouldn't think we would get anywhere at Chelsea next week, and I think Liverpool, we won't get anything out of it. I think we'd be lucky to get something out of that game.
Also, with your point, with us, how we were doing so good and you don't really drop players, but don't you think Victor Camarasa deserves more than 5 minutes of play this season? That's in the Premier League. He's only had 5 minutes of to show himself. I know we had the EFL Cup against Colchester, but it's still not enough. I mean, he could have came on as a substitute in a couple of them games, even for 10 minutes or something. I mean, the whole season, only 5 minutes. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a strong argument for him to have come on Sunday. And I think, Maya has had the opportunity on more than one occasion to do his stuff. And he infrequently, he doesn't do it. We all know that. And especially if he starts a game, we have a weak link in the team. Camarasa, the game I felt was crying out for early substitutions once again, and it didn't happen. And this is going back to how I feel about Roy's sort of going back to how he was doing things last season, and it was negative, defensive-minded, very, very late substitutions. And that is what we had on Sunday, and that's what worries me.
Yes, I kind of agree with you there, but we weren't doing too bad. Why change it if we're not doing too bad? Maybe change it to change the style we're playing. I was surprised with the subs. I really thought PVA was going to come off. He was having a shocking game. No. He made one really good tackle. The rest of the time he was just lost. I watched him all game. He was a player I watched, and he just seemed to be out of position, couldn't control the ball. All right, he had a couple of foraging runs and made a really, really good last gasp tackle, but stick Schlupp there.
I mean, come on now. I mean, Jeffrey Schlupp didn't have a good game himself. So it's like you're taking off one player and then you're putting another bad player in the left-back position. I mean, Jeffrey Schlupp, we've seen it with Roy Hodgson at Palace. He doesn't like Jeffrey Schlupp playing left-back, and he's made him more of a central midfielder, which it sounds crazy, especially when you talk to Leicester fans. They can't believe it. But Jeffrey Schlupp's position isn't left-back at Palace, especially under Roy Hodgson. So that's our issue going into the season. The right-back position was an issue. I think it was main concern, but also the left-back position, because we've got no depth there. Unless something does happen to Van Aanholt, who's going to play there?
I'm a bit concerned because Martin Kelly has been out of the team, and ever since he's been out of the team, we've been struggling in the defence.
Yep, indeed. Good start to the show, fellas. Plenty more to dissect, I think. And quite interesting what you said with regards to Roy Hodgson and the fact that he tells the guys upstairs what he wants. For me, that's quite a sad indictment of modern football, isn't it? Especially for a manager who is 72 years old now, someone that you'd think would want to identify his own players. And the fact that he goes up there and says, this is the type of player that I want, who knows what he's going to get back in this instance? Like you say, Max Meyer, who hasn't really produced the goods. It doesn't surprise me. Victor Camarasa wants to leave in January. I think the same happened with Patrick Bamford, didn't it? He decided that he wanted to go back, having just never scored a goal.
He just wasn't very good. We didn't miss him, to be honest.
He had his opportunity, but as Nick said, he didn't really perform. I mean,
one of my favourite moments was when he came back for Norwich and was even more inept for them than he was for us.
He probably touched his hair more than the ball. Thinking about it.
But he's doing it for Leeds now, so fair play.
He is kind of doing it for Leeds. You speak to some Leeds fans and they're not so sure there's the whole Nketiah-Bamford argument. Anyway, Crystal Palace fan show on Love Sport. John Solarco coming up.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice. Follow @Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason. To protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
It is the Crystal Palace fan show on Love Sport. Me, Matt Beadle, stepping in for Charlie Hawkins for 1 week only, joined by the guys from the Back of the Nest podcast, James Dr and Nick. Coming up is John Solarco, but before we get to him, chaps, I just want to quickly touch on Vicente Guaita. It's always one of those tough names to pronounce, isn't it? Back in the starting lineup, of course, Wayne Hennessy had come in. A decent keeper, Guaita, right? He's got the credentials, but I think the first time that he was playing with Cahill, was it first time he'd set up with that centre-back partnership? Is that correct?
No, he's played with Cahill before, but he picked up an injury. But I mean, this season, if you're looking at top performers, I think Vicente Guaita is up there. There's been so many games where I'm convinced that if he didn't play, then we would have picked up points, most noticeably the West Ham game, where I think it was the first half where he just made a couple of incredible saves due to our poor defensive errors, and he covered for us. And I mean, you're looking at the last two games and the Arsenal game when we conceded from corners, and I'm not saying that Vicente Guaita would have helped us, but it's just his presence in the team, going into the game and seeing Vicente Guaita start there instead of Wayne Hennessy, it boosts, I think, the fans going into the game. We're way more confident, well, I am anyways, with Vicente Guaita in goal. And I think also the back line as well, because he's a confident goalkeeper. And, I mean, every game that he plays, he's just showed that we got him for basically nothing.
He did have one hen moment, though, didn't he? The ball came floating across and he came out for it. I'm doing the actions for the people watching on YouTube. And he just totally misjudged it. I think it went out for a goal kick in the end, but he was. It's the first time I've seen him lost.
Yeah, I mean, every player has to do a mistake once in a while. Even like the Messis, they misplace a pass as well now and then.
Such a Hennessy mistake, though.
I mean, he's been watching Hennessy over the last couple of games, so I don't blame him.
Okay, well, I wonder what John Solarco thinks about the goalkeeping situation at Crystal Palace. He is on the line now. Of course, 9 years service for the Eagles across the 80s and 90s. John, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys.
Great to have you on. We've just been talking about Guaita, the goalkeeper, back this weekend to replace Wayne Hennessy. And the general consensus in the studio is that when he's playing, there's a bit more self-assurance in that defence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Wayne's a tremendous keeper, and he's got the height and he makes the saves. But I think there's more personality about Guaita, and he seems to dominate the back four. His distribution is fantastic. He's just got an energy and a buzz, and I honestly, think the team and the back four get just a confidence off him, and I think the crowd get that as well. I was there on Sunday, and he was fantastic. He really was, and I just think he's as big as Wayne is and as good as he is. Guaita's just got more presence. He's just got something about him, and at times you just feel he's not going to concede, but even if he does, you're going to have to do something special to beat him. So, he's a fantastic buy, and he's doing tremendously well.
Hello, John. You had 9 years service. I'm on my 44th, so think yourself lucky.
Well, hey, listen. I came through at 14. You're counting from 14 to 26. So. Sort of 14 to 50, really. So I've never left Palace. So I've been there right with you.
Always in your heart. What difference does it make to a defence if they're happy with the goalkeeper? I know it's a pretty obvious question, but does it really make that much difference? And how does that affect the midfield and then forwards?
Oh, it does. There's a few things. I mean, there's certain keepers. I mean, Wayne's very quiet. He's fabulously talented. He's big But Wayne's sort of more of an introverted character, and you always want him, when I was there, and what you want him to do is talk a bit more, be a bit more outward going. It used to be that keepers were a little bit crazy back in the day, weren't they?
Just a little bit,
and
John,
probably the one that broke the mould was, I suppose, Nigel Martin, the best keeper I ever played with. But, you want someone behind you that is going to come for crosses, he's going to dominate, he's brave, his positioning's good. And when he needs to make saves, you're going to have to do something special to beat him, and he keeps you in the game. You saw that at West Ham. I think, the lad that came in for Fabianski, just against Newcastle was just, he's got doubts and he's not quite at his best. But there was times on Sunday against Leicester where Guaita just makes decisions. He just comes early. Like, you could see Vardy was on the shoulder, and you've got to trust him, if you're Tompkins and Cahill, you've got to hold that line, and you've got to know that if they slip it through, what they want is Tielemans and Maddison are going to try and slide those balls through for Vardy to get onto, and his decision making and his positioning was fantastic, and he snuffed stuff out, and we stayed in the game. Whereas you can see a sloppy goal or an easy goal, it just destroys your confidence and your morale, and it's a bit like the other end, really, if someone's going to score you goals, you go out there with the belief that you keep a clean sheet and you work your socks off, and, Righty or Brighty or AU's going to nick you a goal. And that's what we've got to get back in Christian Benteke and Connor Wickham or AU. I know AU's doing well at the moment. He's got 4 goals, but, we want a striker that's scoring, sort of 12, 15, 18 goals. And that will see, Palace just in a different light, really. At the moment, we'll win a few, we'll lose a few, and then hopefully won't have too much of a struggle. So it's difficult.
John, it's James. Hi there. I'm just wondering, as a talented midfielder, creative midfielder, attacking midfielder you were, how would you feel about being in the squad? Because we're concerned, or some of us are concerned, that Roy tends to play a very sort of defensive midfield. We're always sort of pretty much on the back foot, looking to counter attack, and we're relying on sort of maybe one striker scoring goals. We're not really playing enough creative midfielders and taking enough chances just to sort of liven it up a bit, maybe try and be a bit more positive at home. yourself was a player that really livened up things at Palace and had a great career, obviously. But, you know, as a ex-player yourself in that position, how would you feel playing for the team at this moment?
Oh, do you know what? That's a great question. You're putting me. Look, yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it. A lot of when I played, you know, we were the underdogs, so we had to defend. You know, my job was marking. You know, I had to stop Gary Neville getting forward, Lee Dixon getting forward, Gary Charles getting forward. You know, I had to stop. You know, so if we were playing, you know, some type Everton, Liverpool, you know, sort of Limpar, Kanchelskis, you know, Overmars, you know, I had to double up.
Crikey, putting out some names there, John. Crikey, I tell you what.
But do you know what? What we had to do was double up. My job was to help Shawsey or whoever was playing left back, you know, and if I could get forward and get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 crosses in, yeah, and that was the truth of it. I had to do a job for the team, and what you had to do was you were desperate to break out of that shackles and get forward and, you know, you think about, you watch football and all the pretty pictures and you see yourself going forward, but the truth is you've got to be disciplined and organised and play for the team. And, you know, we played that 4-4-2 where, you know, you played in pairs. Now, you know, I watch the team now and you're right, it is very pragmatic, dogmatic, and they have to grind results. And you've got Schlupp tucking in, you've got MacArthur and Kiyate and Milivojevic, they're solid, and that's how we get results. You know, you can't leave Wardy exposed or Van Arnold too exposed and the centre halves, and you make it organised and rigid and hard for teams to break down. And, you know, you see Will's frustration and Andros Townsend's frustration. You know, Max Mayer's not really getting a chance because we don't play enough. He wants to play as a 10, you know, more as a 7 or an 8, you know, coming in and joining in and playing some pretty pictures. But Roy knows what we've got to do to get results, and he sets us up to get results. And as much as it is, I mean, I'll ask you the same question. I just think it must be so hard. As much as we're in the Premier League, you know, for 7 years running, and you want to pinch yourselves, but, you know, would you want to see a little bit more open football, even if we maybe lost a bit more?
Well, that was the difference between us and Leicester, I think. They've got 3 or 4 players who you mentioned. When they get the ball, they're happy to go forward with it. MacArthur, brilliant at blocking, brilliant at getting forward and tackling, brilliant at winning the ball sometimes in the opponent's penalty area. He's industrious. But he's not one of these players who'll pick up and run with the ball. Leicester had those 3 or 4 players. Any one of them could have carved through us, and they were good at passing. That's what we're lacking. And us fans, although we haven't seen him, kind of see Camarasa as possibly being one of those players that can unlock opposition defences when Sacco or Cahill's looking for movement.
Yeah, I like him.
Very
I like
little.
Yeah, I think he's a good player, talented, and he can offer that. But the problem is, it's the classic. I mean, it's the classic catch-22. You know, for what you give going forward, you know, might leave yourself open. I mean, those lads. Look at the lads we got: Milivojevic, McCarthy. You know, Kiyate. You know, they work their socks off, and that's what they're good at. You know, they're disciplined, and even Schlupp's learned to do that. So it leaves, you know, Townsend and Wilfred very frustrated, and it is hard to watch. I didn't think we had enough invention on set pieces and making the most of throw-ins, and, you know, sometimes we've got to get up there and then make the most of sustaining pressure in their half and try and get a goal. But that's really the football we're playing. That is all that is what we're about, is keep things tight, be organised, disciplined and hard to beat, and hopefully you look at the West Ham result, we just kept going, and, you know, second half we came to life. We should have been 3 down, just kept believing and going. And when we do have that little bit of belief and a bit more attacking intent, you know, we're dangerous. As I say, probably just need a striker that's firing, you know, some life in, you know, sort of Benteke to come good, in Ayew. I don't even think there's an option of playing 2 up front at times to give us that little bit more. So, you know, we just need a bit more from certain areas to give that belief throughout the whole team, if you know what I mean. But you can't question